in this video, I'm going to talk to you about how to draw cylinders and a very specific shape called an ellipse. An ellipse refers to when there is a cylindrical object. It is, when you look at a bird's eye view, you're looking at it directly into it, you see the top of it is a circle, like this bowl here. However, most of the time we see these types of shapes not straight on, okay? Usually if it's sitting on a table, we're seeing it from an angle. And an ellipse refers to what happens to this circular shape when we see it from an angle. What happens to that circular shape? What kind of shape does it turn into? We're looking at the white shape inside of the bowl. What kind of shape does that turn into when we see it from an angle? Hopefully you're seeing some kind of oval type shape, okay? And that shape is called an ellipse. And today I'm going to talk to you about how to draw ellipses and how to turn those ellipses into cylinders. And I actually love teaching cylinders. I could probably spend 3 days teaching cylinders because there's so many fun things you can do. Once you know the rule of a cylinder, you can draw all sorts of things. And it's really fun because you have it looks three-dimensional, it looks realistic, and there are simple rules that can apply to lots of situations. Okay, so actually the same rules for drawing, or the same techniques that I have for drawing circles are the same techniques that I use for ellipses. So I'm just going to recap very quickly. If you want to practice, well, you will need to practice, and you'll need to pause and practice those ellipses. But there's helicopter method. So helicopter method is when I keep my wrist in a splint, my wrist doesn't move, my elbow moves. I hover over the paper and then I gradually lower down. And I actually find ellipses much harder to draw than circles. That's just me though. Okay, so that's helicopter method for drawing an ellipse. Go ahead and pause the video and practice if you haven't yet. Okay, next, hairy line. Okay, hairy line or sketchy line works for drawing all sorts of things. Okay, that actually works better for me than helicopter. Now, actually, before you pause the video and practice, I want to talk to you about what's so special about an ellipse, what is an ellipse and what is not an ellipse. Okay, so I'll draw you a big one right here. Okay, what is special about an ellipse is that it needs to be symmetrical in two different ways. So symmetrical means if I folded the shape in half right here, they would meet together. Now I'm noticing one corner or one side is lower than the other side. So it's probably a fine ellipse. It's just like a little bit at an angle, but I'm going to lower one side and bring one side up higher so I have a little bit more symmetry. Then an ellipse is also symmetrical the other way. So I'm noticing already my point is not where it needs to be. So actually, if you want a perfect ellipse, it's almost required that you draw this grid so you can check the symmetry of it. Now I'm going to erase some of the lines so you guys can see how my ellipse is actually turning out. So if you were drawing something a big still life, you're drawing a big pot, and it was a very big part of your drawing, I would spend a lot of time getting that ellipse perfect, because if it looks wonky, your whole drawing will end up looking wonky. Okay, so that's a pretty good ellipse. Okay, I'm looking for symmetry. This distance from here to here is the same as this distance from here to here. Another thing that an ellipse is it's always changing slope. So at no point does the ellipse get flat anywhere. So what I want to show you is it's not this. So a lot of students curve the edges and then, you know, connect them like this. That is not an ellipse because it has flat areas. You can see a perfect ellipse is always changing. It has its highest point on these edges. Think of like math class and like a graph. Okay, so it's not this. I call this a breadstick or a hot dog. Not that. The other thing that it is not, this is a very common misconception, is that it comes to a point on the ends. Wrong. We do not want points on the ends of our ellipses, okay? An ellipse looks like it comes to a point, but it always just slightly curves at that point. Doesn't come to this really tight point like that, okay? All right, now that I've talked to you about what an ellipse is, ding, 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 ding. We like that one, not that, not that. We can continue practicing our techniques. Okay, so what other techniques did we practice for circles? Oh, I did it here. I drew a grid. Now, your grid needs to be longer or wider than it is tall for your ellipse, okay? And that might be that's actually a really good way if you want your ellipse to just be really good right off the bat. The grid is very helpful. Okay, go ahead and pause the video and practice that. Okay, next one, for circles we did half and half. I don't recommend doing half and half top and bottom, or you're going to end up with these points, okay? If I try and do the top and I have to try and do the bottom, then I have points. Now, if you do it like that and then round it, it's possible that could work for you, okay? Or you could try half and half this way. So this half, and then this half. So go ahead and pause the video and practice that. Okay, another way we practiced circles was drawing ourselves a rectangle first, or a square first. In the case of an ellipse, we'll draw a rectangle first, and then draw your ellipse within that. Okay, pause the video and try that. And then the last method we talked about for drawing circles was wing it, but wing it slow. This isn't really winging it because I'm doing kind of more of a hairy line, but it's not a really hairy line. Maybe I'll try wing it, but slow. Wing it, or just draw one line. That wasn't too bad. Pause the video and try that.